I mean, some of the things going on in this world today are, quite frankly, incredible. Hugh Andree is here, though, for Veterans Voice.
Evening, Mike.
Good evening, and very good to see you, because there are some things in the world that remain a constant, and one of them, hopefully and happily, is Armistice Day, Remembrance Sunday. You were there.
Indeed, yes.
We're going to be looking at some pictures of your attendance there with some of your old colleagues, and a wonderful day it was, despite all the nonsense of the day before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's, it's a weekend for the nation to remember and pay respect to the fallen. And
it's really important. I mean, I've said this so many times that, this is part of our heritage, it's part of our history. So many people who fought and died for what we have today need to have a day, just at least one day a year, to be remembered.
Yeah, and I had the good fortune, the privilege to meet up with lots of old soldiers, comrades, and they were, frankly, all laughing at what had gone on the day before.
On the Saturday,
Yeah, they didn't have really much time for any of that.
No.
It was far more important why we were there, who we were there to remember, and and also to meet up with old friends, old comrades who they hadn't seen for a while. We mentioned the train strikes.
Yes,
certainly there are 4 or 5 lads who'd come up from Andover, and it'd taken them about 6 hours to get up.
Yeah, because for some reason they weren't striking, were they?
They still made it.
Sort of engineering works being done, and also, I mean, I don't know how much you can blame Sadiq Khan for this, but the Jubilee line was shut down, and that's the line that basically takes you to most of the parts of London that you would want to go on Remembrance Sunday. And that was shut. So a lot of people were getting free lifts in cabs. I think we talked about that last week. Black cabs always doing a great job of giving veterans a lift to wherever they need to go.
But as always, the great British Tom, great British soldier, he had a smile on his face. He was going to make it, come what may, and he didn't let it get him down. And that's
I think that's
what they're all about.
Yeah, that's part of knowing what you know, obviously having been in it, of the armed forces, and I know a tiny amount of just talking to people who have been in it, is that you don't worry about what's going on around you. You've got a job to do. You go and do it.
Absolutely. Waitrose problems, we used to call them.
Yes. Well, I mean, isn't it funny that everything that the armed forces do, for example, from the Queen's Jubilee to the funeral and that incredible gun carriage procession, to things that were done during COVID, everything that the army and the forces do works.
Yes. Everything
that the government does, and I'm not making this political, because I mean this particular government, doesn't work.
No, but I mean, the military it trains and rehearses, and it's all about what you see on the day, whether it's trooping in the colour, King's birthday, remembrance, an awful lot of hard work and effort has gone on to get to that point, and we have that saying, prior planning and preparation prevents poor performance.
Yes.
And that is what the armed forces are all about. It's about practicing and being ready so that when the event comes, God forbid, if the King's enemy approaches on the horizon, that's when they pull together and
we're going to talk to Colonel
Richard
Richard Kemp in a little while. He's out in Israel. And, people in Israel are seeing that as a reality, aren't they? Because so many people have gone back to fight for the Israeli Defence Forces, whether they be reservists or whatever they be, but they go back and fight for their country.
Yeah, as we've seen in Ukraine as well. And, over the last few years, so often I hear people criticising, the young people, the teenagers, back in my day, etc. It wasn't like that. Well, I took numerous 18-year-olds on live operations. And more recently, we've seen them go off to Iraq and Afghanistan. And do the job that they've been asked to do. So, I think one has to be a little bit sensitive as to casting that sort of that view over all young people.
Yes, of course.
It's not the case.
No. I mean, I was having a go earlier on at some of these sort of eco-loonies who seem to come from one particular quarter, which tends to be a rather privileged one.
Yes.
Because I think people who come from a much more hard-working, sort of working-class background, they take to it in a very different way, don't they? Because
and whilst we might have a pop at them, and I'm not particularly into yoghurt knitting and tree hugging and all that sort of stuff. I have no problem with it. But ultimately, it comes all the way back to that poppy and the symbol.
Yes.
And giving all of these people the the right to protest, to have free speech, etc. But just remember that works both ways.
But also, yeah, I mean, I still think, as I said last week, that it would have done them no disfavours at all, that the organisers of the Palestine marching, if they had just said, all right, we're not going to do it this weekend, we just don't need to. Because they've now done one again on Wednesday. Last night, of course, we're going to see it now. We saw, I think, a flavour of what we're going to see for the next few weeks if the police don't get a bit tougher, which is obviously breakaway groups of people late at night, moving into different parts of London, in this case, heading towards the Cenotaph. They ended up up at the Royal Artillery Memorial, and they were clambering all over it. And the police sort of, you know, still not quite sure what to do. And it seems astonishing to me that the police are going, oh, well, we're not really sure. We don't think it's illegal to do it. We can't really do anything about it.
There's no excuse for that, because, you know, we should have been warned about that when Brian Ferry's son started swinging around the Cenotaph
he went to
years
jail
ago.
for that.
Yeah,
he
so
went to jail
you know,
for that.
this is where I think James Cleverly. I mean, that's James Cleverly's former regimental memorial.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't get cheesed off with it, then no one will. But he has to empower the police now to lift, and this is what we talked about: lift in court the next day. And punished.
And just get rid of it, because otherwise it's not going to stop. And in fact, because of the way that the policing has happened, I think they're going to become more emboldened. There's another big march coming up on Saturday. I believe on Sunday there's a sort of Christian parade which is being put out there in support of Israel. I just worry that, you know, these issues are becoming incredibly polarising, and the police don't seem to know how to handle them.
No, no. In my humble opinion, it should be a police force.
Yeah.
And I also know a significant amount of veterans who've left the police force.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they weren't a graduate or they just didn't fit that sort of type. At the end of the day, there's a place for graduates, there's a place for non-graduates.
Yeah.
There's a place for the guys who and girls who come out of the armed forces, etc., and ultimately want to get the job done. But, you know, when the force of law has to come down hard.
Yeah.
In order to send the message out, you do this, you're going to pay the price.
Yes.
But we're not going to just, you know, you're a victim of society or wherever.
We're not just going to stand by and let you carry on, because apart from anything else, I mean, I was saying this earlier, you know, London has become a bit of a no-go area for a lot of people at the weekends. You know, people that would otherwise coming up to Christmas, come and see the Christmas lights. I've spoken to loads of friends of mine who, you know, don't come to London that often, but want to come and get a Fortnum and Masons or whatever. And they're like, I'm not going to come.
Those idiots jumping all over the Royal Artillery War Memorial there. How would they feel if we went and jumped all over their mother or father, grandfather's grave?
Yeah, I know.
Went and jumped over their brand new set of wheels.
Right.
You know, they'd soon kick off.
Exactly.
So
it's
lack of respect.
It's a lack of respect. It's not right. And if they can't curb it themselves, somebody's going to have to do it for them.
Yeah, and that lack of respect, I agree with you, should have been extended to last weekend, but it wasn't. But none of the soldiers I spoke to, frankly, could give a flying fig.
Right. I'm quite glad you said that. I thought you were going to say something else for a minute.